Should the Chicago Bulls be extending DeMar DeRozan? That is what is on tap for today's edition of the Bulls Report by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Seatman. Welcome into today's show. We're going to be taking a deep dive look into the Bulls possibly extending DeMar DeRozan. As we know, he is on an expiring contract, so the Bulls have some decisions to make. But firstly, we're going to look at just DeMar's game as a whole, and then we're kind of dive into the number side of things and if he really fits the Bulls' timeline. But at first, we're going to be just discussing who DeMar DeRozan is right now as a player, and then also we have a little funny quote from Bleacher Report as they call DeMar DeRozan one of the most overrated players in the NBA. But from a production standpoint, DeMar kind of tenure with the Bulls so far, he has been one of the more underrated players in the league, especially from just looking at the raw stats. Like that 2021-2022 season for DeMar, when the Bulls were at number 1 in the Eastern Conference before Lonzo Ball went down, DeMar DeRozan was a guy averaging nearly 28 points per game, 5 rebounds and 5 assists on incredible efficiency. He has always been one of the more efficient bucket getters in the NBA, especially from the three-point line and in. But the one stat that stands out to me on the graphic right now on screen is the assist per game. I feel like DeMar DeRozan has become one of the more underrated playmakers in the NBA since his time with San Antonio. He talks about his time with Greg Popovich and how he really impacted him on the playmaking side of things. And it's funny enough, I think DeMar is an underrated player. I think he's an underrated asset in the NBA. I think it's just because his game doesn't really have the flashy, pull-up three or the highlight dunks that he may have used to back in Toronto. DeMar is just that old-school cat where it's I'm getting you to the mid-range, I'm giving you a bump, and I'm rising up and hitting my shot. I love DeMar's game, and I do think he still has a place, even though the modern game NBA has shifted to more a three-point line or getting to the rim type of offense. I still think the old-school mid-range players still have a place in the game, and I think DeMar is underrated. But a platform that doesn't think DeMar is underrated is Bleacher Report. And Bleacher Report, they just don't know ball, as they named DeMar DeRozan as the 5th most overrated player in the NBA in their most recent article. This article was written up by Grant Hughes, and this is what he had to say. In 11 of his first 12 seasons, DeMar DeRozan's team had higher net ratings with him off the floor than on, though his Chicago Bulls have played better with him in the game better with him in the game, than out over the last 2 years. The defensive issues have persisted, and the friction between him and Zach LaVine is a direct result of DeRozan's inability to help when he's not operating as a first option. He said, limited in key ways and tricky to integrate into a team concept, DeRozan is an elite individual scorer who has yet to prove he can do enough in other areas to drive success. And listen, I understand what Grant is saying. Like, obviously, DeRozan, he hasn't had the team success as you would like for a guy that has averaged pretty much over 25 plus throughout the majority of his NBA career. But I don't necessarily think that's his fault. Like, if we look at the past NBA champions since pretty much 1980, the only team that has won a title without a top 25 player of all time is probably the 04 Pistons. I mean, it's always guys like MJ, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, KD, Steph, all these guys, Jokic, like Giannis of the past couple years. Those are the guys that are driving the ship, and they are the keys to success. I think DeRozan, he just really hasn't been able to run with that true number one option as him being the sidekick. And I will say, dating back to that 2021 season, man, Lonzo Ball, he was the key to everything. Like DeMar, he was averaging a legit 28 a game, and the Bulls sat atop of had the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Lonzo was the key to all that. The amount of easy and open looks he was able to get for a guy like DeRozan, where he was setting him up in the half court, especially where it was him coming down off a pin down, give it to DeMar. He takes one dribble, gets to his spot, and rises up. I mean, we saw it over and over again. Or whether it's just a Lonzo Ball outlet pass up to DeMar DeRozan, and he gets an easy lookout or just an easy pull-up midi. I still think DeMar, my overall take with him is, he's still an elite mid-range scorer. And honestly, he's became an underrated playmaker. But I do agree with some of what Grant has to say about maybe him being a little overrated is because of his limitations. Like, I do think DeMar in totality, I still think he is a tremendous player. I think he's one of the better players in the NBA still. but I must say he has limitations, and especially on the defensive side of the floor, which is where I wish DeMar showed a little more dog and a little more hustle. I got more thoughts on this in a second, but I'm just curious to see what you guys have to say. Where does DeMar rank in the NBA? Let me know down in the comments section. DeMar is a top blank player in the NBA. This would be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, you know what to do. Sit back, let it play, and let me know. Is DeMar DeRozan is a top blank player in the NBA? Now, should the Chicago Bulls extend DeMar? I kind of give you guys my thoughts on his game as a whole, where I still think he is a very effective mid-range shooter. You can't get that away from him, and I do think he has, some solid playmaking ability. But let's start with his contract and where we stand now. Right now, DeMar is on a one-year expiring deal worth $28.6 million, which pretty much is, honestly, I would not say a team-friendly deal, but for what DeMar brings from a production standpoint, it's pretty solid. But the question is, what is he worth now? DeMar is 35 years old. Now with this last year remaining on his contract, how much is DeMar worth on the open market? Like if DeMar were to hit free agency this past summer, how much would he have gotten? Well, let's take a look at some of the highest paid guards heading into the 2023 season. And this ranks 25th through 34th. For the highest paid guards in the league. You got guys like Tyler Hero at $27 a year, and then you got Jalen Brunson, probably on the best deal in the NBA, sitting at $26.3. But I do think DeMar would probably find himself in that 29 through 34 range. I do think DeMar, obviously with him making $28.5 million this upcoming year, I think that's probably the most he's going to make, probably in the remaining years of his career. But maybe DeMar is looking at like a Joe Harris and say, hey, if you just give me 3 years, $60 million, I'll ride with that. Maybe get him in that Spencer Dinwiddie range, Terry Rozier, Brogdon. I think DeMar is way better than these guys right now. But due to his age and just kind of where his game is at, and not really being able to be the best at adjusting to the modern game NBA, I think DeMar is probably sitting at 20 or so mil. I got more thoughts on this in a second, but guys, we have a great deal going on. And if you head to chatsports.com/Bulls combo, we got these two t-shirts. They're actually $20 off right now. Normally they're $49.99, but right now if you use our link, chatsports.com/Bulls combo, you can get this 2 t-shirt combo for $29.99. Make sure you don't miss out and click that link down in the comment section and the description of today's video. My overall take with DeMar DeRozan and where he stands, if he can contribute to a championship team, I think his best case scenario is him being a third option. Like, I think you get a guy like, let's just take the Denver Nuggets, for example. You know how they had Jokic and Murray, the two-headed monster at that 1 and 2, or the first and second option. Maybe you look at a guy like DeMar DeRozan, he can fit into that Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon role, where obviously different play styles and different archetypes, but they are the third or fourth options. But we're the Bulls in terms of shot attempts per game, and this is why I don't think this is the Bulls getting the best bang for your buck with their current roster. Like, I understand Zach LaVine, he's got to have 18 shots a game. He's the best player. He's one of the best offensive players in the league. But this is what bothers me, is this 3-person run right here. DeMar DeRozan still being at 17.6 shots per game. I just think that's way too many. I think they should utilize his playmaking a little more and maybe get that down to around 13. And then Vooch, obviously taking 14 a game. I've expressed my thoughts on that. I think that is way too much. That should be around, probably honestly, below double digits. I think that should be around 10 or 9. Then it's Patrick Williams. That's the guy who I really do think needs to be the second option. I mean, P-Dub, throughout a short NBA career, you guys know, I do think a breakout season is coming for him. And the number one way to do that is to have him be the second option. I think if I'm doing my Bulls shot attempts per game, I'm probably still going LaVine up there at 18. I'd put Patrick Williams at 15, and then maybe DeMar DeRozan at around, 13 or 12, and then Vooch at 10. I think if the Bulls want to reach their max potential as a unit, it's Patrick Williams. You're the second option. You're getting the second most shot attempts per game, and just having overall more of the offense ran through you. We can still run the offense through DeMar. I just want it to be more in a playmaking type of style of play. But I ask you guys before I wrap up my thoughts here in a second, would you extend DeMar DeRozan? If you're the Chicago Bulls, you're AKME, what are you doing? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. I think it's time to move on. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I am a big fan of DeMar DeRozan's game. I love what he brings to the NBA basketball floor. I just think he's one of the best mid-range scorers we've had in the league. I still think he can be a third option on a championship team, but he doesn't really fit the Bulls' timeline, and that's why I do think it's time to move on. Yes, if the Bulls had a Jokic, if they had a Giannis, if they had one of these top 5 players in the league who can truly be number ones on championship teams, hell yeah, give me DeMar DeRozan on my team. But with where the Bulls are right now, I think they're kind of shifting to a more of a youth and athletic movement, I don't think DeMar fits that timeline at all. So I'd rip the Band-Aid off. I'd move off of DeMar DeRozan. I love him. I love what he's done for the city of Chicago, and we've heard him talk about Chicago. He absolutely loves it. He's loved his time here. But overall, rip that Band-Aid off, move off of DeMar DeRozan, let him play off this year, and maybe you trade him at a deadline for maybe a first-round pick. Maybe a championship team gets desperate here, with the season, getting underway here in a second. But overall, I'd move on. He doesn't really fit the Bulls timeline too well. As always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the Bulls Report by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we'll see you guys next time. Go Bulls.